let's get us started.
Let's do it. All right. Do you
Oh,
want intro or should I just jump on in? What's good for you, Maria?
yeah, I want to do a quick intro, of course, introduce you, give you the walk up to the red carpet to the stage the proper way, and then I'll hand it over to you. Cool. We have quite a few attendees that are already with us, so it's exciting. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Maria Velasquez. I'm one of the co-founders of the Cybersecurity Marketing Society. You've probably seen me across other webinars and other things that we're doing within the society. Today, we're getting straight into what's actually working and not working in SEO or GEO for cybersecurity brands. Because search has changed, and we all know that. I think it keeps us up at night, and most teams are still trying to figure it out. So this is the session where hopefully you'll get some answers. It's going to be very tactical. We'll look at some real cybersecurity websites, right, Scott? Um,
Yep.
and then the most common visibility issues that we're seeing, specific fixes that can drive essentially more traffic and more pipeline. Isn't that the holy grail? So yeah, I'm really excited to be joined today by Scott Johnson. He is founder and president of Amplified, who works exclusively with cybersecurity companies on SEO, GEO. He's seen the good, bad, and ugly. And so very, very, very excited to have him here with us for a whole hour. So please ask all the questions in chat. Use Q&A if you want. Definitely keep things engaging. Gianna and I are here going to be on the back end, keeping things spicy in the chat. And Scott, I'll probably interrupt you a couple of times to bring on a good question for you to answer live. And that's pretty much it. That's all the housekeeping stuff. Scott, I'll hand it over to you.
All right. Not too spicy in the chat, I hope. So yeah, I'm also here with Brittany Lasoya. She'll be co-presenting with me. Again, my name is Scott, president of Amplified. We do SEO and GEO for cybersecurity. And a big thank you to the Cybersecurity Marketing Society, like for you guys being here, Maria and Gianna hosting it. I mean, it's a privilege to be here. So thanks for making that happen. All right, let's jump on in. Today we're going to be talking about SEO and GEO, what's working for cybersecurity brands. So we'll talk about that. Then after that, as Maria mentioned, I'm going to kind of take off the gloves and look at a few CMS member websites and kind of point out some GEO opportunities, and specifically things that'll apply to a bunch of you guys, not just, unique to them. And then after that, we'll do some Q&A. So with that said, let's jump on in. So by the end of this webinar, you'll know how AI search works and why it's so important, how to get more visibility in AI search and some cybersecurity specific strategies because they are different, and the differences between SEO and GEO. So the only people that love acronyms more than SEOs are cybersecurity folks, but we love them too. So GEO, AEO. I've now heard HEO, which is hybrid engine optimization. It's like SEO and GEO. It's like ludicrous. For the sake of this webinar and simplicity and for our, brain cells, we're just going to say GEO. That is optimizing your content so it gets cited, referenced, and or clicked in AI search. And again, for simplicity throughout this webinar, I will say AI. I am referring to Google's AI overviews. It could be LLMs like ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, etc. Okay, AI overview, as you guys know in Google, you drop a search into here, you get this little summary at the top. And this information is being pulled from the sources off to the right. Today, we're more going to focus on LLMs. Those tend to generate a lot more leads, but just for the sake of clarity. Now, in LLMs, you can be referenced, cited, or clicked, and you want to understand the differences. So I believe I think it's Claude, but in this search, you have Tenable One here. They are being referenced. So that means someone ran a search, me, in Claude, and Claude specifically named a company. That's what we want for your businesses. You want people searching whatever your service is and to be referenced. Now, back to the terminology, these guys are cited. So this information here is coming from these guys. Now, clicked, of course, is if I click on this. Now, the Holy Grail is when you are referenced, cited, and clicked. That's what you want to strive for, although even just getting one of those is still great. So in this search, fraud prevention for enterprise, Signified is referenced. They are also their own source. They are being cited. So, and then people can click on that. So, sorry, I need to close thing. I get a notification on my screen every time there's a comment. Sorry. So this is what you guys want here as well. Um, okay, let's talk some stats. Google processes about 14 billion searches per day. ChatGPT currently maybe 2.5 billion. So you'll notice this number is kind of increasing. It used to be much smaller. By the way, Claude doesn't share quite as much data, but it is closing the gap fast on ChatGPT. Particularly this year, I think they've halved the gap. I don't know the exact number. Maybe it's like a billion or 1.5. And the demographics differ as well. ChatGPT tends to be 30 plus years old, 40s and 50s especially, and Claude really 20s and 30s is kind of the sweet spot. Although, of course, there's a broader range. As you're optimizing for LLMs, don't get too OCD with which one you're targeting. Oh, we're targeting ChatGPT, Claude, whatever. It tends to work across them pretty well, and it's not worth just lasering in on one, generally speaking. 51% of Google searches are 1 to 2 words long. Average ChatGPT search is 23 words long. And that's an important distinction. So let's say in Google, someone is searching for hardened images, which is a security container. Um, Someone in ChatGPT might search, who are the top container image security vendors offering curated hardened base image registries for financial services? So which of these is a better lead if you offer this service? It's the ChatGPT one, right? So for this one, we don't quite know the intent. Maybe they're a buyer. Maybe they're looking for a definition. Maybe they don't know what the heck that even means. Um, this one, you know exactly who they are, industry specific. So let's say someone searches this, you're cited, and they click, and it brings them to a page on your site about your amazing hardened image security stuff for financial services. Your conversions are through the roof. So that's why we love optimizing for AI, even though the volume is smaller. Man, the intent is great when you really nail it. How is GEO different from SEO? So sometimes people offer it as like a separate line item, a separate service, or oh, we only want GEO, we only want SEO. They're much more intertwined than a lot of people think. Rather than GEO being a new discipline to master, it's much more an additional layer on top of SEO. So there's a lot of similarities, but there certainly are some differences, which we'll get into today. The great thing about GEO is that the results can move quick. I've been doing this since 2010. I remember kind of in the more olden days of SEO, you add a keyword and you shoot to the top and you start getting leads and you're like, Scrooge McDuck jumping into your money. And now it's like so competitive. You have to have amazing content and backlinks and this, that. GEO reminds me of the old school SEO days where when you start doing things right, it moves in weeks. I've even seen it in days. So I'm glad you guys are here because this stuff really does work. 52% of sources mentioned by Google AI overviews rank in the top 10 results of Google. AI search often pulls from the top results of Google too. It trusts that. If something is number one overall in Google, excuse me, AI is much more likely to trust it and cite it than if it's languishing on page 8 of Google. So that's why when I say, when someone only wants GEO, but they're not ranking in SEO, it's a tough battle because you really got to nail the SEO stuff. And you could do them simultaneously, by the way. It's not one or the other, but you truly do need to rank organically as well to really nail AI search. So strong SEO is the foundation. You likely won't show up in AI without it. Okay, so I've kind of got the high level stuff. Let's start, talking shop. So you cybersecurity folks and all marketing folks, you love showing sexy graphs going up and to the right as part of your monthly reporting. Maybe it's to a CMO, the CEO, it could be an investor. That's an important thing. And a common challenge we're hearing as I speak with cybersecurity companies is how the heck do I report this stuff? Um, Oftentimes we hear about KPIs or OKRs where it's like, all right, our goal is to be number one for this prompt. And that's not quite right. It's easy to engineer being number one for a prompt, but you want the broader brand visibility. And frankly, what's challenging is Google and Bing and all those guys, you get fantastic data. You have Google Search Console. You know how people are searching. You know how many, what pages do they go to. With AI, yes, you get data if they click, but the majority of people don't click. So what you're really looking for is kind of brand recognition. Uh, I'm trying to brand visibility. That's the phrase. Some people click links, and we definitely track those. Like here's an example from a cybersecurity company. They started GEO here. This is only tracking clicks, and that's fantastic. And you could see how many convert. But it is messy to have attribution because a lot of people might do a search in AI and they don't click a link, or you're not even cited, but you're referenced, and then they Google you or they go straight to your site. The attribution gets messy. So the best way is to track brand mentions. And I'm sure over time, especially as these things start selling ads, we'll get better data, but this is the best way now. There's a lot of different tools. A lot of cybersecurity folks like Profound. That's a good one. Otterly's another. Ahrefs and SEMrush have their brand radar. It is a tier below, but it's different. We like pairing something like a Ahrefs or SEMrush with one of these other ones to really get a broader thing. So, as your bosses or you guys are looking to set KPIs for the quarter, I personally recommend brand mentions. Obviously leads, but you guys already have that kind of KPI. Brand mentions is better than having a KPI of like we're targeting these five prompts. This is an example from Profound. So here you can see, I think it was a fintech query, I don't remember, but you have this chart which you guys need as part of your reporting. And let's say you're with Mercury and you're showing, hey, from April 12th to 17th, our visibility's done this. This is the type of chart you want. And typically in your reporting, you want to compare it with competitors using those tools. And as you can see, by the way, in 5 days, look at the fluctuations. So when I'm talking about Wild West, that's very volatile. You won't see that really with SEO, but you could use that to your advantage by moving quick and doing stuff. And we'll get into the tactical stuff later. How to rank in AI. So I'll give you some high level topics, then we'll kind of do a deep dive. Write content that AI loves. We'll tell you exactly how to do that. I realize that's broad. Technical considerations. Brittany will share those. Schema, which is also technical, but it's so important for AI, it deserves its own line item here. Authority and trust signals. That could be backlinks. It could be unlinked brand mentions, things like that. Okay, let's talk content. The number one lever we often see pulling for cybersecurity companies is refreshing older content. There's always a heavy focus on new content, which is important, but it's like, we must hit our quota of 4 new posts a month. But for faster lead gen, often the move is to refresh older stuff. Now, how do you decide what to refresh? There's two different ways you can do it. What I recommend is finding ones that are either doing well, they already have traffic, or find ones close to the money. So go on your SEO tool, find the ones on like page 2 of Google. So like really close to getting traffic, refresh those. And by the way, you can't just update the date at the top. Like the algorithms realize that's not a refresh. So add some 2026 stats, stuff like that. Very quick win. Okay, this is a biggie. Find the kind of content AI loves in your space. So one of the most common questions we get is, should we be on Reddit? Should we be on Gartner? G2? Should we have list goals? What should we do? It's really hard to give a blanket answer, but I'm going to show you how to find out in your space. So I could give you a blanket answer and that would be like, okay, but there's a better way to do it. So here's an example. Who are the top C10 providers and why? So your homework, do this for your own service. Go into Claude, or just make sure you're in incognito, or else it's just going to say your company's the greatest kind of thing. Go in incognito, do a search for your service. All right. See, and make it a buyer search, vendors, providers, solutions, that kind of stuff. See who comes up. So now what I'm looking at, we have the companies here, Tenable, Pantera, XM, and I'm looking at who's being cited. So now what I'm going to do is pull these up. And I'm looking at the type of content the AI wants for this search. Okay, the top platforms. Smells like a listicle. Yep. Venable, vicarious, etc. Now we're here. The best, so that's got to be a listicle. Yep, essentially. And here, top 10, another listicle. So here's how I would use this. I would say, okay, it's clearly putting a lot of value in these listicles, but oftentimes you'll do a search like this and it'll be listicles, but it'll be the own company's one. Like if Tenable had a top 10 CTEM, and of course they're number one and they're the greatest. But here it's pulling from third-party ones. And it's pulling from some of them multiple times. PeerSpot's here twice, Terra's there twice. So what we would do and what you guys should do, if that's what yours looks like, is reach out to all those listicles and say, hey, love the article. This is exactly what we do. Any chance you can get us listed? And truthfully, what they'll usually say is, sure, pay us. And there's different rates for how long, are you number one? Are you number five? That's often money well spent. I mean, if you could be number one in Claude for CTEM providers, that's like $800 or $500, whatever it is, very well spent. And you reach out to each of them, and that's the strategy. All right. Particularly in cyber, industry specific and compliance content does fantastic. Industry, maybe for 80% of you folks, even if your platform is industry agnostic, you'll have groups of clients in certain places, manufacturing, fintech, gaming, whatever it may be. You really want a page for those folks. It won't scare off people not in that industry, but what's going to happen is oftentimes in AI, people are searching so laser focused on their own industry that they think, well, you must be a fintech software. And when they do that and you have a fintech page, you're going to be cited and more likely to get that conversion. Compliance is a cheat code in cybersecurity. This very much differs for each of you, but if you help people, whether it's SOC 2 or HIPAA or know your customer if you're on the fraud side, having compliance content is amazing because people searching for that, you really want to show up and they have a strong need to buy, to solve a problem, I should say. Well-organized content with FAQ increases AI placement by 37%. And this is something so easy for you guys to do. Platform pages, feature pages, blog posts, just add an FAQ. And by the way, write it for humans. So forget the old school SEO, like the keyword stuffing, like an FAQ. Who are the top? Are you the top CTEM provider? Yes, we are the top CTEM provider. Like, don't get all weird in SEO. Just write for humans. AI is much better at picking up on that. Do you integrate with Salesforce? Yes, our platform name integrates with Salesforce. Author bio with expertise. This is again something quick you guys can do like today. Make sure, let me just pull up an example actually. Okay, this is from our site. Not like it's perfect, but you have the date, you have the author, but what you really want is the bio at the bottom on why you're an expert on this thing. Um, Not to get too far in the weeds, but it aligns with something called EEAT. Are you an expert on this type of stuff? What I see a lot on cyber sites is the author is the company name, and you really wanted a person and why they're an expert. Why can be an element of time. It can be maybe a certification. It could be a job title. So make sure you have that. Go check that on your blog. Cite statistics with sources. This again goes back to that EEAT thing I mentioned. Is it trustworthy? Referencing and citing sources works really well with AI search and also Google. So going back to when you're refreshing, add some data. It's even better if it's your own. 65% of our customers, saved, blah, 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 whatever it may be, but even general stuff. All right. This is your blog checklist. Hierarchy of headings. So you want to clear H1 as the title, H2 for subtopics, H3 if there are sub-subtopics. We'll go more into this later, but this is something I see on Cyber a lot, and I'll give you a specific example later. No walls of text. No, no, no. Break it up. Images. AI loves lists, tables, bullets. By the way, competitor comparisons, fantastic in cybersecurity. You want someone searching, hey, I'm comparing, whatever, CrowdStrike versus Wiz. You want to make sure they're pulling the differences from you and not them. So comparison tables, great in cybersecurity. We talked about statistics, FAQ, internal links, very, very important. I don't think I need to explain those. One tip, though, one mistake I see sometimes is generally you want the internal links to nudge people further along in the funnel. So if someone's on a platform page, you probably don't want to link to a blog post. You're distracting them from the sale. But let's say there's a blog on, what is phishing. Maybe you want links to your phishing platforms or even more specific types of phishing attacks, whatever it may be. You generally want your links to push closer to the money. That's not an SEO GEO thing, that's like a conversion thing, but it's a good tip. Strong CTAs. You cannot ask for the sale enough. So most of you have the get a demo box in the top of your site, and that's good. Keep it there. But ask throughout the content, and that's another way to break up walls of text, by the way. One rule of thumb, the more complex your sales cycle and the larger the sale, sometimes the softer nudges are better. So if your software costs 100 grand a year, you can get a demo and you should, but you don't always want this like buy now, sign up now kind of thing. Maybe there's some gated content, our 2026 guide to phishing or whatever it is. You also want to give softer angles. One we have some clients have success with is maybe they're not ready to schedule a demo, but maybe it's, hey, enter your email and you could watch a demo. At least then you have their info and you could, start spamming them. So try different CTAs. Testing is ideal if that makes sense for your company. We talked about the author bio. Okay. You guys might want to screenshot this. Just make sure you have this on your blog and you will see results improve. Okay. Topical depth is very, very important. Does anyone know what topical depth is? I guess there's not an easy way for people to chime in, is there? So in the olden days, someone could search for what is phishing and like Forbes might come up or Bloomberg. They don't offer phishing services, but they had so much domain authority, they could rank for whatever they wanted to. Nowadays, the algorithms love topical depth. They would much rather rank someone that has a phishing platform in 40 pieces of content relevant to phishing. So you guys have to make sure you have topical depth, and I'll give you an example. Let's say you guys offer email security. You want your product page, make sure to have feature pages. So if you guys only have a platform page and no other product or like kind of sub feature pages or whatever you want to call them, make sure to add those because oftentimes someone's not searching for email security, but they're searching for, whatever, phishing prevention or malware prevention, whatever it may be. Have feature pages. Case studies, 2026 guide, industry alerts for the larger cyber companies are great. They're time intensive, but you're constantly adding this content on the latest threats, and you're very much viewed by an authority on, from our algorithm overlords. Glossary does very well in cyber. Now, frankly, they don't convert. So that you will get a lot of traffic. They generally don't convert, but it's this topical depth thing where it's not getting credit, but it's helping your other pages rank higher. Maybe you have, all right, we have our page for Outlook security, Gmail security, enterprise, industry stuff, different types of attack. This is what topical depth looks like. So with that said, let's transition over to technical SEO and GEO. Over to you, Brittany.
All right. Thanks, Scott. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right, we are up and running. Okay. So as he mentioned, my name is Brittany, and I'm going to talk to you all about technical SEO and GEO. And right off the top, I just want to mention that, technical can encompass a lot, but honestly, one of the reasons that I love it so much is because a lot of the times we see that the optimizations for technical that we make are super simple to implement. And then even further, they can actually give us some really big home runs. And so I'm talking about flipping a switch in the back end of a website, toggling one option in the back of a website. Just that little thing can optimize a ton of pages across your website and even resolve issues at scale. And so when we talk about optimizing for GEO, those are the type of wins that we're looking for. So as we start to move forward, we'll give some examples of that, but just know for technical, small efforts, really big impact. So let's get into it. All right. And so one of the first things that I wanted to talk to you all today about is indexing and crawling. And the reason that I'm bringing up these two things first is because essentially these two things are the foundation of our website. And it's just the fact that if we don't get these two things right, we're more than likely not going to be cited in these search engines or GEO engines. So if our website isn't getting crawled, if our website isn't indexed, we're going to be missing out on all of those good citations. And jumping back to what I mentioned previously, we see time and time again, one wrong directive is actually ghosting your entire website. But again, this is a good thing because once we find this, super easy to remedy. We go in, make one optimization, and then you're back up and visible to all these crawlers. But when we talk about technical specifically, big things are our robot.txt file, which is controlling our crawling, and then our no index directives, which are affecting our indexing, of course. And so we want to make sure that we have control over both of these items on our website. And then even further, we need to make sure that they're fully optimized from a GEO perspective. Because again, one wrong move on the technical side can actually make you invisible. And here's just a quick example that I wanted to show you and how we illustrate this. So I'm giving you a snapshot of one directive that we pulled from a robot.txt file. This is just a small example. But what this on the right is showing us is we're speaking to a ChatGPT crawling bot. And how it's set up right now here on the left is we're telling it it has explicit instructions that it is allowed to crawl our site and it is allowed to serve our content. And then when we look in the middle here, this one little slash is actually giving a directive to the ChatGPT bot to not crawl our website and to not serve our content. So again, that's what we mean by one little move and we're making ourselves invisible. But again, good news is you bring this issue to us, we find it, we go in, we remove that directive, and now we're back visible. So that's why I really want to stress that one little thing can actually make the big difference, but you also have opportunities to optimize further for GEO. So just like we can speak to the crawler to tell it not to crawl us, we can actually speak to all these different AI models to tell it to crawl us and to service to its users. So super important to make sure this foundation is set up if you've ever gone through a website migration, if you have a new website, or if you've just made really big development changes, I would always recommend to audit your indexing and your robot.txt file to make sure everything is squared away. Okay, so we have our website visible. Now the next thing we need to make sure is the structure of our website is really good. And the way that I like to think about it is imagine you are looking for a book and you go to a bookstore and you know exactly what you're looking for, but in the bookstore, the shelves are all in disarray. Maybe stuff doesn't have genre labels. More than likely, you would probably either go to another store that is organized, or you're just going to pull out your phone, order from Amazon because you know what you're looking for. Same thing for these LLM crawlers. The biggest thing is they are trying to return a good result to its users, and how they do that is going off to your website and others and looking for all this content to crawl and then serve. So we need to make sure that our website is super easy to crawl because that's going to mean our content can be crawled. And then even further, kind of touching on what Scott mentioned with your blog checklist, making sure that when it actually hits that content on the page, it can actually crawl it and understand it, interpret it, and then it's going to serve that. So you see how it's kind of all tying together. It's super important to make sure we have an easy to navigate website, structured on-page content, and then also internal linking. And I know Scott kind of mentioned this previously, but I'm bringing it back into the conversation because it's just that important. We don't want an LLM crawler to hit our website and then leave. Our goal is to make sure that when an LLM crawler or even an SEO crawler hits our website, it stays on there and it understands what we do. And internal linking is exactly how we do that. And here's just a quick illustration of what I mean by that. So you see kind of like the example that I mentioned previously, if we are going in and let's say these LLM crawlers are looking at our website, things are all in disarray, the information is there, but it can't find it really easily. So what is it going to do? It's going to go to one of our competitors, and that's when the competitors start eating our lunch because we see that on the competitor GEO optimized websites, everything has a nice category, but then jumping back into those content clusters, we're tying everything together. So you can see these green lines here. These are representing all of our internal linking. So it's not necessarily that you just want the LLM to hit your website and leave. You really do want it to understand all the content on your website and all that you do. And you do that through the internal linking. All right. So we have our website visible. We have really good structure on our website and on our pages. The next thing that we need to pay attention to is site speed. So I'm just going to give it to you, honestly. AI is not going to wait for your website to load in order to serve it. So it's just the fact faster sites equal faster LLM crawling, which means increased ability to get cited in those LLMs. And the data is showing us that LLMs are actually prioritizing the fast loading websites. So for example, if your website is taking more than 1 second to load, it's most likely going to ignore you. And again, that competitor is going to start eating our lunch, which is exactly what we don't want. Good news is, if we increase our website speed, we know that we're more likely to be cited. So what I like to tell my clients to do is it's not just something on a checklist. It's not just something you should prioritize for SEO. This is something that you need to be speaking with your team, your developers, whoever it is, about at all touch points when updates are made to a website. So if you're publishing new pages, if you're making big site updates, speed and how that is affecting and how that is being affected should always be a top priority for you. And if you've ever had a site update, new pages go live, if those aren't being prioritized, you might even see those pages start to fall off of that visibility and you won't know it until you see that impact. So again, super important that we bake our site speed strategy into our GEO strategy. Don't let this be something that goes by the wayside. It's super important for getting that visibility into GEO. All right, so just to recap, we have our site visible, we have it structured really well, and our site is fast. So what's next? And this is where that schema markup that Scott mentioned comes in. And of course, it's super important for SEO, but we found that it's extremely important for GEO. So what it is essentially a snippet of code that we write and we inject it into the back end of your website. And this is going to speak the language of these LLM crawlers, of search engines. And what we can tell it is all types of information about your business. So organization schema, article schema, super important for blogs, frequently asked questions schema, very important for GEO visibility, and software application. This is one of my favorites to use for my cybersecurity clients. So all this is again, speaking the crawler's language, and we increase our chances for faster discovery. So you can think about it like it's all compounding on top of each other. Our website is visible, it's structured really well, our site is fast, and now the cherry on top is we're speaking the language of the search engines. So those search engines are able to read and interpret the content on our website before it even hits the page to crawl it. So if our goal is to make it as easy as possible for these LLM models to find and interpret our content, this is exactly the way to do it. We want to make sure all these different elements are compounding on top of each other. And just to give you an example of what schema looks like in practice. So here on the left-hand side, this is exactly what we mean by we're writing in the search engine's language. So an LLM will see this little snippet of code, but the interpretation will start to populate looking like this. So we're giving it all of this information in the back end, but this is the type of result that we're trying to look for. So this is specifically what an AI or SEO engine would see, but we can do that and make it look like that by just injecting a small little snippet of code in the back end of your website. So super important, especially for GEO. And basically, I just wanted to wrap my part up by saying, of course, all these things are compounding. So there's not necessarily one thing that I can tell you, go off and do today, and you're going to get these results. I'm always going to recommend that you make sure that your site is visible, your pages are structured, your site is fast, and you have schema. So if you're paying attention to all four of these different quadrants, that's when you're going to start to gain that visibility in GEO. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it back to Scott. He's going to talk about all things authority and trust, another super important compounding element.
That was really amazing, Brittany. I just wanted to jump in and give you a time check real quick, Scott. We're about 2:36. So we could leave some time at the end, maybe 5 or 7 minutes. Maybe 5 or 7 minutes for any questions, or if we want to go through kind of like the chat and extract some really cool questions, but I just wanted to give you a quick time check.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I'll make sure to save 10 minutes at the end if that works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
Perfect. Okay, let's rock and roll. Okay, authority and trust signals boost AI rankings. So the blog checklist that I shared earlier, that builds trust within your content. It makes it look like higher quality content, where backlinks build offsite authority signals. So AI doesn't just evaluate your content in isolation, it cares what the rest of the web thinks too. So if you have a piece of content and like 20 high-end sites link to it, AI is much more likely to trust that and rank it. So a lot of different types of quote unquote backlinks. They're not all backlinks, but I mean, relevancy is everything. I'd rather have a link from a small cybersecurity blog with 200 visits a month than one from some online casino with, 100,000 visits a month. Relevancy is everything. Industry publications or associations are fantastic. I remember when the Cybersecurity Marketing Society linked to us, I jumped up and opened some champagne. But the industry stuff is great. Reviews, there's not as much of this in your space as others, but anytime you can get a good review, even on your website, ideally a third-party platform, helps a ton. We talked about best of lists, PR and brand mentions. PR is fantastic for SEO and GEO. And brand mentions, you don't even have to be linked. Like if someone on Reddit or wherever mentions your brand, if it's not hyperlinked, that's fantastic. That's really helps out your GEO. Those are more important than ever. Unlinked brand mentions. Okay, some cybersecurity strategies. Some of these we've already said. Make sure to have a feature, page for each feature on your platform. Industry specific stuff, compliance stuff. That's that topical depth we talked about. Competitor comparison pages. Gotta have them. Sometimes we've had clients that say, oh, we don't even want to mention those turkeys on our site. But when AI is pulling that info, you don't want your competitors telling the story on how they're different. You want to tell it. And those pages get a lot of traffic. You can go into SEMrush or Ahrefs and look up, big competitor and then put alternatives. There's gonna be a lot of volume. And that's a fantastic lead because that's someone that's probably working with that competitor. They're not happy, so they're actively looking for an alternative. Listicles, glossaries, we talked about that. Threat alerts, whoops. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to speed up. One thing I gotta say, perfection is the enemy of progress. We have about 50 clients, have been doing this a long time. And one of the common threads from the guys that get the best results are companies that move. If it takes 3 months to approve a piece of content, or if a website takes a year to go live and the last 6 months are making sure every single thing is perfect, while meanwhile you have this crusty old site that's up, it's better just to move. I wouldn't have this fear that you're going to publish something that's going to get tons of views and go viral overnight. I view most things as iterative. get a piece of content. It has to be quality for sure. Content quality is essential. Um, but there's nothing wrong than doing a phase two and making it even better. But it's like just keep moving. Be open to experimenting. Nothing set in stone. Anything can be removed, but just try different things. Like if you haven't done competitor pages, maybe give that a shot. Um, okay, time to investigate. So we had, I think, maybe a dozen volunteers of CMS members for us to kind of look at their site and find opportunities. There's definitely more than we have time for now, but let me quickly go through a few. And I'm just going to go through them in the order received. I didn't like, cherry pick anyone. And one thing I want to say, us SEOs and GEOs, like we could nitpick anything. Like I could look at apple.com and say, "Oh, this is terrible." So this isn't anyone did anything wrong. It's just ideas for optimization. This is just how our brain works. So let's start with the first volunteer who was Drada. Okay. So I'm going to take a look at the blog. All right. Do we have an author? Yes, we do. Oh, wait, let me go to a specific article. This is fine. Sure. We have an author. Do we have a bio? Yes, we do. Love it. Three thumbs up. Um, Definitely text heavy. So earlier I mentioned adding like kind of conversion stuff throughout. Maybe it's a banner, maybe it's a demo. I don't know your particular service very well, but big wall of text is not ideal. I do like the bulleted lists. That's great. As far as CRO, if the newsletter is getting lots of subscriptions, I would keep it, but I would check because oftentimes they don't do super well. Usually the newsletter feeders are like other channels. If this is getting a lot of people and those people are converting, keep it. You may want something a bit more direct. Like our only sale thing on this entire site is this button, and I do like that it's bright blue. But just for example, again, on our site, we get a ton of leads. Like I don't like empty white space on the side. You don't want it cluttered, but one CTA, so we have it there and there, it just works really well. Um, okay, let's look at a product page. Okay, sorry, one second here. All right. So I think there was some technical stuff here. Unified GRC. No, that wasn't it. Oh, I remember this one. Okay. So this page isn't currently getting inbound visits. I'm looking down here. It's like, 0 organic visits per month. And I think what's happening, I saw this on a number of product pages, we're not using phrases that people are searching for. And we don't want SEO to screw up marketing, but we do need to use phrases if you want to get that inbound traffic that people are searching for. So the result of kind of doing this, and it's on most pages, is looking at our homepage stats. Again, no one did anything wrong. But if you look at our rankings for the homepage, which is the easiest page to rank, we're like 7th overall, 5th overall, 16 overall, lots of compliance automation, which we don't really talk about much. Um, I just pulled up a competitor, Banta. They are using that terminology. And if you look at their rankings, it's like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 kind of stuff. So I think some keyword strategy on the homepage and solution pages would also elevate the GEO significantly. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to stick to my time cutoff. Let's look at Kevlar. All right, let's start with the blog. Or is there schema here in FAQ? Let's take a peek. Yes, FAQ and written for humans. I like that. So great job on that. Is there FAQ schema? There is not, there's actually not any schema. So this is one we see a lot. Not only do you want to add FAQ schema, you want the organization schema. Brittany mentioned software schema. That will really help your GEO, and that's something you guys could implement today. It's not a big lift. Feel free to use the AI to help you. But that's a big opportunity there. Okay, request demo. I don't love that it's black because it matches everything. If you remember on the site I was just looking at, Drata, it was bright blue and it stood out. So I would make this like green, red, whatever color, but you want it to stand out. Also in cyber, we've tested this. Don't have your demo be a pop-up. If it's a standalone page, it will do better. It's more likely to be cited from GEO, SEO, and then also a proper demo. I like the simplicity of the form. It's not like 20 fields, but you really want social proof off to the side. Maybe it's logos. Best case scenario, it's someone's face. Faces convert very well, by the way. So it's like, let's say you have a happy client testimonial, grab their picture from LinkedIn, get their approval, obviously, do the testimonial, do that next to the demo. Conversions can honestly double. They can go from like 1.5 to 3% with simple stuff like that. So I would tidy this up. Um, okay. You don't want a general FAQ page anymore. That used to be the thing. But for GEO, you want the questions specific on the page that's most relevant. So it's talking about integration, put it on your integration page, etc. One thing I love about Kevlar, you guys are getting some unlinked brand mentions. So this is on Reddit. So you have a lot of the foundations. There's just a little bit of tidying up to do. You'll need to get more traffic to the overall site first, but the foundation is good. But just currently, there isn't any visibility for you guys in AI, and I'm not beating you up, but I think by tidying these things up, you can see this needle move pretty quickly. Okay, I have 4 minutes. Who's next? ProArch. Okay, you guys were third. Um, so ditch the slider. Every like CRO test shows that moving stuff distracts people. With this moving thing, especially with different colors, my eyes are looking here and certainly not at contact. Change the contact color. It shouldn't match. You want opposite on the color wheel, which is orange. But your site is fast. And I think I saw lots of fantastic FAQ when I was looking. And you'll notice I keep going to FAQ. That's for a reason. So lots of FAQ. Great job. And that's on a ton of pages. No schema. So this is something you guys will all want to take a look at. There's free checkers. Just Google, schema validate, schema checker. You'll find one. Start running your pages through it. The opportunity I see a lot with ProArch. So what's tricky is with guys have like a million services. I'm guessing this is consulting type of stuff. When you have a lot of services, the topical depth is going to be very difficult, which again is important for GEO. So the way we would handle this, or you should handle this, think about your 80/20. What are the top three services that are bringing in most of your money? And pick one per month. Let's just say let's go to cybersecurity. Let's just say it's MDR. Spend a month and build out a content hub like I showed earlier and hit that from like 5 different ways. Case studies, different types of MDR, different attacks, subservices, blog posts, that kind of stuff. And then you'll really see those elevate in GEO. This one won't happen overnight. Just do the amount of content lift that you have, but just target the big stuff first. Okay. Sorry to rush through that. I just wanted to be respectful to the group's questions. Before we jump in, if any of you guys want a complimentary SEO GEO strategy session, like sort of like what I just did, but a proper 30 minutes, like no hard sell at the end, just scan that and grab a time, and we'd be happy to go through that with you guys one-on-one specific for your site. Okay, let's open it up to questions. Maria, do you want to do that or do I look? How would you like to handle this?
Yeah, I'll go through. Let's see the latest one from Hannah. And this is probably for our technical SEO guru on the call. So how important are LLMs TXT files? I've been hearing mixed feedback on how much these actually are used by LLMs.
Yeah, that's a great question. I've actually been looking into this myself. Just a quick response is we don't know yet. It's one of those proactive type of measures that we are recommending to our clients. So we can't sit here today and say, yes, put this on your website. You're going to have all these great visibility signals. It's one of those proactive measures that it doesn't do any harm to have one of those on your website. So we are recommending to generate those, basically set yourself up for that future success because we do have a feeling that that might become important later.
Yeah.
But as of right now, there isn't data to support if the approach is good or bad, if you will.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where if everything else is buttoned up, sure, go for it. Like I said, we have about 50 clients. We've never seen a time where we've added that and it's made a massive difference. But like Brittany said, it can't hurt and it may get more important, but that's where it's at now.
Got it. Let's see. There's one that Gianna popped in. Daniel wants to know if under disallow on the robot TXT, we have any forward slashes that impacts AI crawling. Also, do you suggest any tools to audit our website for internal linking? It's a good one.
Yeah. And so for the disallow specifically, you can also have directives that are used strategically and purposefully. So when we talk about really big websites, or if you have a lot of links on your website for marketing purposes, for example, UTM codes, a lot of websites will input a directive to specifically not crawl those pages. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to have a slash and a disallow. It really depends on what user agent you're telling to disallow. And then from there, we can kind of determine like what's good or bad. But if you have a disallow in your robot file, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And then to ask or to answer you about the internal linking, we like to use Screaming Frog to run a crawl of the website and then extract some internal linking and then do analysis from there. But Screaming Frog is a good tool you can start with.
Yeah, for your disallow, if we're like speaking Greek, if you send us an email, we'll just respond and check. Like we can do it in 5 minutes. We're happy to do it for you. So no worries there either.
Love it. Scott, do you want to bring back the slide with the QR code just for the last few minutes? Oh, perfect. There you go. You read my mind. And then I think we wanted to tell people about the SEO, GEO kind of office hours that we're going to be hosting, right?
Yeah. So how many is it? 4 or 5, Maria? Something like
I think it's
that?
around I think it's around 4 or 5. So
Yeah. So throughout this year, maybe every other month, we're going to have a 1 hour SEO, GEO office hours. Again, it's a pitch-free zone. Bring your questions. If there's any way we can be notified in advance too, then we could dive in advance. But you're welcome just to show up and ask questions, and we're just happy to help.
perfect. Okay, Gianna just shared the Zoom link for that one. So definitely bookmark it. Okay, we have a couple of other ones. How do you see earned media and general PR and comms efforts impacting LLMs and AI results? That's a really good one.
Huge. Huge. Yeah. So, and we don't do PR, full disclosure, but our clients that have really good PR make us look like heroes. I'll put it that way. Like it's just so important. And again, they don't even have to be links. Brand mentions are just everything when it comes to AI search. Not everything, but a major component.
Yeah. Plus, share a voice. It all kind of compounds together, doesn't it?
Yep.
Well, let's see. When setting up a brand new website, this is a nice 101 kind of question. What's important for SEO and GEO?
Yeah, I can take that one. So if I could give you just two things right off the bat to pay attention to, it would be the site indexing. I can't tell you how many new websites have come to us and their indexing is off and they're completely invisible to search. So first things first, site indexing. And then the second thing I would say is schema. If you can set up a schema strategy from the beginning, from your website's inception, and even further make that schema strategy programmatic, that would be a holy grail or a silver bullet for you because schema is really important for GEO. We already discussed that, but applying schema can be a manual process. So if you can work with your developers to get that into a good spot before your website goes live, to make sure each page that gets published on your website has appropriate schema automatically applied, you're already going to be kind of winning the game on that front. So those are the two things that we would definitely recommend to pay attention to for new websites.
About that.
Yeah. Let me pull something up. I was busy on my other screen. This is like our internal one of our checklists. I'm just getting it for the recording. We won't go through it. But that way you guys just have truthfully our internal kind of checklist. It talks about robots, checking for AI bots. We've seen it where a site was in dev and pushed to production. And in dev, it blocked all crawling and that carried over to production. So all these like little things add up. So this is in the recording if you want kind of a robust list.
Love that. Thank you. Appreciate that, Scott. I'm going to jump in like the last Hail Mary for a personal question. One particular challenge that I'm dealing with right now from a site traffic, conversion rate optimization / SEO perspective is we see a lot of traffic to the homepage. We don't see a lot of it going to the demo page. And so what have you seen is like the perfect example of how to best drive traffic to the demo page from homepage without being spammy, without being too flashy, too many pop-ups, all of that. Yeah, that's it. Go for it.
Yeah, that's a great one. That could be a few different things. So first, I would look at what people are searching for that's bringing them to the site and make sure it's ultra relevant to what you guys are doing and it's not super top of funnel or maybe not exactly what you do. I wish I could pull up this site. I met with someone earlier today, but another thing we see sometimes in cyber, not with the fantastic people in the Cybersecurity Marketing Society, but it's really important that when people land on your homepage, you say exactly what you do and why you're different versus cybersecurity solutions or MDR solutions. Like, really think about why people choose you versus your competitors and have a strong hook.
Mm.
And again, the more complicated sales cycles, it's tough to go straight to get a demo. It definitely can work, but test different conversions. So you can get A/B testing tools like VWO. We have a client where previously their conversion rate was 1.56 and it was get a demo. And they did A/B testing for experience the platform, which I actually didn't even like, but you just got to test stuff. And conversions went from 1.5 to 3.5.
Wow.
So make sure to it's simple little things like verbiage goes a long way. And honestly, like button colors. Like I know like designers squirm, but like opposite color on the color wheel, make it pop out. Don't have 500 things competing. So here, their button would be that and no other orange on the page. Those little things that seem minor can double conversions.
Love it. Okay.
Yeah,
Just
even the
while
demo
I run
form.
and change the color on the button real quick. Sorry, Brittany, please go ahead.
Oh, no, just like the demo page itself, there's just little things that you can do on there to make sure that when they actually land on the demo form, it's easy for them to submit the information. They know what they're getting out of that meeting. Just little things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, sell the demo. Don't say get a demo, say see, and then have bullets on the specific things you're going to offer. Another thing that we've seen work really well is if they're on the demo page and they don't start filling it out in 15 seconds, we've seen it where a pop-up comes up saying not ready for a demo, enter your email and watch a video for a demo. That way you still capture them.
I love that. That's
Yeah,
as bottom of funnel as it gets, just
Mhm.
pre opportunity creation. Love that. That's brilliant. Well,
thanks.
thank you both so much. This has been so informative. I know a lot of people will probably taking notes. It's okay. We're gonna send everything afterwards, the recording. And as Scott and his team explained to us all, they're open to talking. They're open to helping out. They'll be part of our office hours. So this is not the end of having these two amazing experts help us out and figure out this crazy world of SEO and GEO. So thank you, Scott. Thank you, Brittany. We really appreciate you taking 1 hour of your time today to school us on all things SEO. And thank you for our attendees who joined us. We'll be sending everything over shortly. And
Great.
see you on the next one.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
y'all.